I'm Warren Andrews with VBN Sports, here with North Carolina State guard Aislinn Konig. But we'll call you Ace because everyone calls you Ace, don't they?
Yeah, it's easier.
Let's go back to this year, and unfortunately, you didn't get a chance to totally wrap it up, but what a way to finish if that's how it had to go. North Carolina State gets their first ACC title in 29 years. You get the Tournament Most Outstanding Player Award. Share some of your favorite memories from that tournament.
Well, like you said, it's kind of sad we didn't get to continue afterwards. I think our team had a lot of potential, but that's basically short of winning the national championship. That's the only way you get to finish your season on a win. So we were really excited about that, and I think my favorite moments. The game seems like it just went by so fast, and you don't really have a chance to think about it until afterwards, and then you're celebrating, and then that's what kind of takes up the rest of your memories. So for me, it would really be when that final buzzer went off. My favorite memory is just seeing the excitement in the crowd and my team and being able to celebrate with them. That had to have been probably the most special experience I had at NC State ever.
Well, you guys went on quite a run this year, and it's not the first time that the team that you've been on's been on a big run. Look back to high school, three straight provincial titles, ho hum, three MVP awards for you to add to a crowded mantle. Tell me about those Brookswood Bobcat teams that allowed you to have so much success, not just as a team, but for you individually too.
Well, I transferred into Brookswood in my grade 10 year, and I really chose to go there because of Coach Neil Brown, who was so unbelievably dedicated to his players and to the sport of basketball. He would go in every single morning and open up the gym at 7 a.m., and we would all be in there working out, and that was really the deciding factor for me. But our success over those 3 years, we had such an amazing group of girls and such good chemistry that, we really were able to do something super special.
Well, I was reading an old province newspaper, and back in grade 11, your dad, Frank, was saying that over 150 NCAA schools had already reached out to you and inquired about you. You had to kind of shortlist it down. Schools like USC, Arizona, Oregon, Louisville, not just North Carolina State were interested in you. What I want to know is, what were those recruitment visits like? Walk me through. If I'm Ace Konig, I'm touching down in, say, Oregon. What does the recruitment program look like?
Well, it's kind of like a whirlwind. You get picked up and automatically they're straight into their recruiting tactics. So you go and they're bringing you on campus and you're meeting people, and you really don't get any time to relax until nighttime when you get to hang out with the team. So you're going through all of these things. You're running from one meeting to a next. You're jumping in and out of golf carts. Now they're doing lots of photo shoots. So it's really hectic. I actually only took two official visits because of that. I wanted to make sure they were my top two, so I ended up going to Stanford and NC State, and then ultimately chose NC State.
Not a bad decision in the end, was it?
No, not at all. Have zero regrets. Not many people get to say that.
And you know what? I'm sure the casual fan that hasn't watched your games, hasn't even watched your highlights, will look at your stats of the Wolfpack, and the big one that jumps out is, of course, that you can launch it from beyond the arc. You're number two all time in school history in making three pointers. But if they did watch you closely, if they did watch the highlights even, they'd see this dime dealing, ankle breaking terror out there on the court when you've got the ball in your hands. So I got to ask you, which of the three skills came most naturally to you? Was it the shooting, the passing, or the ball handling?
I would probably say the most natural skill would have to be the passing. Just growing up around basketball my entire life, my family all played. My grandfather still plays in the Masters League. So just being around that, my vision was able to develop and my IQ became really strong. The other stuff I have to train really hard for. So the ball handling, you do have to do that almost every day to stay sharp, and the shooting is the same way. To shoot at a high proficiency, especially in the ACC, where your opponents are so athletic and long, you have to be practicing those skills every single day. So I'd have to say the passing was the most natural.
My son, he's 11. He is obsessed with basketball. In fact, if he's not practicing outside or shooting hoops, he's running, or when he's relaxing, he's watching YouTube videos on basketball. When did the sport really become a priority? How early on?
Actually, just a year older than your son. I was 12 years old and I had been playing soccer up until that point. And my parents brought me in and they said, "We're not going to sit outside in the rain anymore. You have to choose a different sport." And to be honest, at that point, I was starting to get tired of being in the rain too. So I chose our family sport, an indoor sport, and went with basketball to their relief. So at 12 years old, I decided to start taking it seriously. And I actually sat down with my dad later in that year and told him, "Hey, I want to be really good. What do I have to do this?" And from then on, it was more of a job than a hobby. But, it's turned out great, and I wouldn't change anything about it.
Well, if you look at it, you really could have got advice from either of your parents. I understand both mom and dad played collegiately, but you look at dad, he's coached at various levels, including the collegiate level. So, what have they meant to your growth in the sport? And, you got so many highlights, but I'm sure there were low lights too, and just the advice they would give you to kind of bring you back up again.
Well, I was super blessed that not just my parents, but all of my mom's siblings, everyone has played. So being in that culture where they
Wow.
understand you and they know what you're going through and they know how much effort it takes, it was really important to my success because where normal kids would have a lot more responsibilities at home, would have more chores, more things they had to take care of. My parents were saying, if you want to be good, we're going to help you be good. And you don't have to worry about getting a job. You don't have to worry about doing all of these things around the house. Your job is to go work out. And that really enabled me
Wow.
to develop my skills and devote myself to the craft.
Well, I would say it's worked out to say the least. Not only did you play for North Carolina State, which is you played a top level school in the NCAA, that's amazing. But then you slip on that Team Canada jersey, and you've done that at various levels, even with the senior team more recently. What did that mean to you when you pulled on that jersey and there's that red maple leaf there?
There's not enough words to describe the feeling of wearing and like wearing the Canada across your chest and then standing out there and listening to the anthem about to play another team. There's no way to describe it. Tears come to your eyes. You swell with pride, but also there's this pressure of you're representing the nation. And all of that is the most exciting experience you can possibly have because um, you're filled with pride. You get to demonstrate what our nation is about, and we have a wonderful, wonderful team. So, being a part of that is such an honor every single chance that I get.
Individually, there's a game that stands out for me. I think you know where I'm going with Latvia, and you
Yeah.
went off. Like 10 3 pointers. Like if you hit 3 or 4 in a game, you're doing pretty good. You hit 10, you're in the Steph Curry echelon. What was happening in that game? And was your phone blowing up after it was all done?
It's really funny because I've had a couple games like that. Like in high school, I had a game where I hit 14 threes. I went 14 for 16, but that one was super special because it was my mom's birthday.
What?
And I'm gonna sound like a really terrible daughter right here, but I was so focused on the game, I forgot it was her birthday. So so I go out and I hit these 10 threes and I come off the floor and I automatically get a call. She's like, "This is the best birthday present ever. Thank you so much." And I was in shock and I felt so terrible. So I called her right afterwards and we're in Spain and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. Like I didn't call you today, but I'm glad that I was able to play like that for you." And she didn't even care. It's like I got a world record. So yeah,
That's
don't think I'm a
amazing.
bad daughter. Like I usually am pretty good with birthdays, but that day I guess I was just in the zone.
Well, maybe it's better because then you weren't focused on that and you just went out and did what you did and look at the present in the end. Oh, man.
That's what I'm gonna continue to tell her.
I'll back you up on it here. You've actually been part of teams that were part of Canadian history. part of the first U19 girls team to win bronze at the FIBA's. You knock off Japan to get that medal. How special was that for you in the program?
That was unbelievably special. You're sitting there and in our meeting before the game, it's a feeling like of history and destiny and like it's coming to be. And that team was so unbelievably special. We have so many videos of us like all singing music in the locker room and dancing together before games. And I just think that that team was so special, and we were able to do that because we loved each other and we're so connected.
The question that you've probably been answering more than anything over the last month is all about the WNBA draft, and it came and it went, and unfortunately, the phone didn't ring. Is that something that is motivating you right now, that when this crazy time finally eases up and you get a chance to get out there and show your stuff, you're going to have a little chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the pandemic and quarantine has flipped a little things on its head a little bit. Usually the WNBA draft is a difficult thing anyways. There's 12 teams and there's so many talented players and they only have 12 spots. So even girls who are getting drafted might not make it, but um, usually in a time like this, they'd be going into training camp. And like people like me who were unable to get drafted would be going into training camp and trying to earn a spot that way. But because there are no training camps right now, it kind of flips it on its head, and we're not really sure what's going on with it. But being having a little bit more motivation, I've been somebody who I like to think is a very hard worker and has been the underdog coming from Canada, playing at NC State, which at the time was an underrated school. I think those things have always enabled me to work extremely hard, and I'm just going to take this as another one of those things.
Well, you've been busy. You've launched the website, I guess, acekoning.com. And what are some other ways that you've been keeping busy? I noticed you've been doing some training videos for kids also.
Yeah, I've been working with Teach the Game Sports in North Carolina, and I've been working with them. But I am about to actually launch my own virtual training sessions, ball handling stuff that I'm going to probably market mostly to Canadian kids because I know that they need a lot more attention from people. They kind of get overlooked a little bit. So if your son wants to join, it'll
Awesome.
be up there. And then also, I'm starting to reach out to nonprofits and other companies to see how I can leverage my presence to help them in a time, especially for charities like Athletics for Kids in Vancouver or Kids Sports who rely on being able to go to these fundraising events with lots of people to raise money. So I'm going to start reaching out to them and seeing how I can help them because in a time like this, kids need an outlet, and that's something that I really want to put my energy into.
Well, there's Ace, the basketball player. There's been Ace, the student, which just wrapped up. What does Ace, the person outside of that, like to do to relax or have fun?
I am a huge nerd, so I have tons of books. I think I shipping home all my stuff. The hardest thing was finding a way to get all my books home. I have like 60 books I was bringing back, and my parents were pulling their hair out. Like, why do you have all of these books? Usually, university students only have their textbooks, and they get rid of them right away. And I was like, I'm so attached to them. So reading, basketball, working out has really become something I truly love. So I do that all day, every day, especially with my sister. Um, and then, just doing the normal quarantine things, trying to bake bread and see if I can paint. So
How's that
just
been?
those things to try and keep busy. The bread has been good, the painting not so much. So still working on that one.
It's a work in progress. Well, you've been
Yeah.
called the Steve Nash of the Canadian basketball landscape, which is quite the nickname. Steve Nash was a guy that was passed on by both Canadian NBA franchises at the time. He was traded early in his career, wasn't given much of a chance there, and then he went on to make a whole lot of GMs look really foolish after 18 seasons. And I have a feeling you're going to make a lot of WNBA GMs look foolish, and one of them look pretty darn smart when your time is done. Thanks so much for doing this, Ace.
Thank you, Warren. It was a pleasure.
That is Ace Konig, former North Carolina State guard and Team Canada guard. I'm Warren Andrews here with VBN Sports. Thanks for watching.